In the previous video, we have seen the wave nature of electrons. But at the final, when we are trying to observe the wave nature of electron before entering into the double slit with the additional apparatus, so there the wave nature of electron is disappear. This is called collapse of wave function of particle. This we will discuss, or you can discuss in your higher studies. You will learn about that one in advanced quantum mechanics. So at this moment we are limited our topic to the wave nature of the electron on that particular experiment. Now I want to show that the velocities, phase velocities, group velocities of particle waves. Already we know that some number of waves are associated with the particle, as we thought, because if we consider a one wave with the particle, then the particle velocity is very less than the wave velocity which is associated with the particle, that is phase velocity. Phase velocity is more than the particle velocity, so it is very contradictory. So they assumed that the more number of waves are associated with the particle. So how, if the more number of waves are associated with the particle, then how the resultant wave and how the wave, the newly wave, the combination of those individual waves, how the new wave is formed and how the wave is moves with the particle, that we will see in this video.
Suppose we add several waves together to create a new wave. If we change the amplitudes of the waves, the resultant wave also changes. The waves can have different wavelengths. The bottom wave has a slightly different wavelength than the other two. As we move the two other waves, notice how the sum of all the waves changes. The resultant pattern moves at a different speed than the original waves. We refer to the speed of each original wave as the phase velocity. We refer to the speed of the resultant pattern as the group velocity. When we have a wave describing a quantum particle, it's the group velocity that determines the velocity of the particle. Any wave function can be thought of as the sum of waves of many different wavelengths. For a quantum particle with mass, such as an electron, the waves with a shorter wavelength have a faster phase velocity. For classical water waves on the surface of an ocean, the waves with a shorter wavelength have a slower phase velocity. When different wavelengths have different phase velocities, we can have dispersion, where the waveform has a sharp peak at one moment in time, but is dispersed at another moment in time. On the other hand, if all the different wavelengths have the exact same phase velocity, then the pattern can stay constant, and the group velocity will be equal to the phase velocity. Examples of waves where all the different wavelengths have the same phase velocity are electromagnetic waves through a vacuum and waves on an ideal string. If we have waves with the same amplitude and speed, but moving in opposite directions, then we produce what we refer to as a standing wave. Much more information about waves.
In the next video, we will see the phase velocity and the group velocity. Phase velocity means the individual wave velocity, and the group velocity is the combination of waves velocity.
Hello, today we will discuss about phase velocity and group velocity. Phase velocity. The phase velocity of a wave is the rate at which the phase of a wave propagates in space. This is the velocity at which the phase of any one frequency component of the wave travels. The phase velocity is equal to Vp is equal to omega by k, where omega is the angular frequency and k is the wave number. Here in this short animation you will see the red and green dots. The red dot is representing the phase velocity, while the green dot is representing the group velocity. The phase velocity is the velocity of a single phase of a wave. Derivation of phase velocity. This is a wave equation. According to wave equation, is where y is equal to a sine kx minus omega t, where this a is the amplitude and kx minus omega t is the phase. Now taking this term equal to 0 and then solving, we will get kx is equal to omega t. Transferring this minus omega t from the left hand side to the right hand side, this minus omega t will become plus omega t. Now dividing both sides by kt, we will get x by t is equal to omega by k, and finally vp is equal to omega by k. And this equation represents the phase velocity. Now, what is the group velocity? Group velocity of a wave is the velocity with which the overall shape of the wave's amplitude, known as the modulation or envelope of the wave, propagates through space. Mathematically, the group velocity can be written as Vg is equal to d omega by dt. Remember, the phase velocity was Vp is equal to omega by k, but here this group velocity is in differential term d omega by dk, differentiating angular frequency with respect to wave number. The group velocity is equal to phase velocity when the refractive index is constant. And we know, according to the definition of refractive index is the ratio between the speed of light c and the phase velocity vp, which is n is equal to c by vp. Solving this equation for phase velocity, vp will become equal to c by n. C is the speed of light and n is the refractive index. And according to the definition of phase velocity, the phase velocity is equal to omega by k. Comparing these two equations, we will get omega by k is equal to c by n. Solving for omega, you will get omega is equal to ck by n. Now differentiating this term with respect to k, you will get d omega by dk is equal to c into d by dk into k n power minus 1. This c is the speed of light, and the speed of light is constant, so we do not need to differentiate the c. We will only deal with the k and 1 over n. Using the product rule, we will get d omega by dk is equal to c 1 over n. Taking differential of k with k, then we will be left with 1. So we do not need to write it. We will get 1 over n minus k into 1 over n squared into dn by dk. Further simplifying this equation, we will multiply this c with this term. We will get d omega by dk is equal to c by n minus ck by n squared dn by dt. Now from this equation, this term c by n is equal to the phase velocity. Here, phase velocity is equal to c by n. So the group velocity velocity Vj is equal to d omega by dk is equal to phase velocity minus speed of light wave number divided by refractive index squared dn by dk. Now here, if this dn by dk term is equal to 0, the group velocity will be equal to the phase velocity. When this whole term becomes 0, then this d omega by dk will be equal to Vp. It means that the group velocity will be equal to phase velocity if the refractive index is constant. From this equation, this equation further clarifies that the group velocity is less than the phase velocity. Here from this equation you see this is the group velocity is equal to phase velocity minus ck by n square dn by dk, minusing this whole term. So the group velocity can never surpass the speed of light, but phase velocity can surpass the speed of light. But actually we need the group velocity to transfer the information from one place to another. That's why the speed of light is constant.
In this video, we have seen the group velocity and the wave velocity.
Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to try to understand what a wave packet really is. We know that the concept of wave packets was introduced to us by Louis de Broglie in 1924. So it is often referred to as the de Broglie hypothesis. He said that waves can behave like particles, and particles can likewise behave like waves. And he also gave a famous relation equating a particle with a wavelength. Till the time we never associate wavelength with any particle. For the first time, he gave a relation lambda equals h over v, meaning that the momentum of a particle is directly proportional to the wave number that we can associate with a similar wave. For explaining the properties of particles that can behave like a wave, he considered a particle as a localized wave, which we call a wave packet. A wave packet is a group of superimposed waves which together form a traveling localized disturbance, and the equation of which can be described by Schrodinger's equation. How do we produce a wave packet? We can produce a wave packet by superimposing several waves which are slightly differing in their wave numbers, because we know that the concept of de Broglie hypothesis equated that the momentum of a particle is related to its wave number. And from Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we know that the momentum, the uncertainty in momentum multiplied by the uncertainty in its position is a constant. And from Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, we know that if there is no uncertainty in the momentum or wave number, then you cannot localize the wave. There is an infinite uncertainty in its position, and such a wave can behave only like a wave, and you cannot attribute any particle nature to it. On the contrary, if there is a small uncertainty in its momentum, which can be taken as a small uncertainty in its wave number. Now, such a particle can be represented by a host of waves, each differing by a small wave number. And superimposing all these waves together, we will get what is called a localized wave packet. And it can explain how a particle can have wave attributes. We'll see that in a small Python program segment next. I have already saved the program segment so that we can easily execute and see how a wave packet is formed. For this I require two libraries, and I am importing these two libraries here. For describing a wave, I require two parameters. One is time, the other one is the displacement of the wave about its mean position.
Here we have seen how a wave packet is constructed and how a wave packet is moved along with the particle. So a wave packet is always associated with the particle. That wave packet velocity is equals to the particle velocity. Here we are going to see the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, the understanding.
Today I'm doing an experiment that demonstrates Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. So here I have a green laser and I'm firing it down towards the front of the room through a narrow slit. Now that slit can be adjusted so it could be made narrower or wider. And the laser spot is projected onto a screen behind it. So what do you think is going to happen to this spot on the screen as I narrow the slit? Well, let's have a look. You see exactly what you'd expect. The spot gets narrower and narrower. The sides are getting cut off by the slit. Makes complete sense. And if you stop there, you would never realize that Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is at work. But if you keep going, something strange happens. As you make the slit even narrower, the spot starts to spread out. Isn't that incredible? You're making the slit narrower, and yet the spot on the wall is getting wider. The narrower you...
Here you see how the light is spreading over in the horizontal direction. Here just you observe the slit is in vertical direction, but whereas light is spreading in horizontal direction. So here in this means the wave width is increasing. The wave width is increasing. Here it means that wave amplitude is increasing in the direction horizontal direction. So here in this we can assume that the particle, the momentum of any photon is increased when you are decreasing the size of the position. So delta x, when we are trying to, delta x is limited or accuracy in delta x, but we cannot find the accurate in momentum. Further you see this.
Make it, the wider that spot on the wall becomes. To understand this, we have to look at Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Heisenberg's uncertainty principle is normally written as delta x delta p is greater than or equal to h on 4 pi. So what does this mean? Well, it's about the position and the momentum of a particle. So x is the position of the particle and p is its momentum. So delta x is the uncertainty in position and delta p is the uncertainty in the momentum. Now, if you multiply those two quantities together, they must always be greater than or equal to h on 4 pi. Now, h is Planck's constant, and that deserves a video all to itself, like this one by 60 symbols. But for our purposes, it's just a very small number. So in our everyday lives, we don't come up against this uncertainty relation because everything is much, much bigger than h. But as we narrowed the slit, we were decreasing delta x for those photons. So we were getting more and more precise about where the photons were passing through that slit. And at a certain point, you come to this limit, so that if you narrow this any further, you're going to break this uncertainty relationship. So what needs to happen is the uncertainty in momentum needs to go up. I should specify this is uncertainty in momentum in the x direction, in the horizontal direction. So if before photons were going perfectly straight, now they must veer off to the left or to the right to ensure that we don't break Heisenberg's uncertainty relation. And the more you decrease your uncertainty in position, the more narrow you make that slit, the more the uncertainty in momentum has to go up. And so if these photons are going to the left and the right, that's going to produce a much wider beam. It's really, really non-intuitive, but it's the way the world works.
Must be the sun playing tricks with my mind.
What about, here's really going to test you, right?
I don't know.
Tell me about what's...
We have seen how a wave distributed in a space. So a wave is distributed in a space means we are not able to decide the position of the particle. If you decide if you are ready to decide the position of the particle, then we are unable to decide the momentum of the particle. So this is the uncertainty principle. I am very thankful to the video makers in YouTube. Those visuals I used in this my class. Very thanks to them. Now come to the point. Now time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. So already we know that the particles are having the wave nature. So if the particles are having the wave nature, then that waves we can write in equation that is called a Schrodinger wave equation. So that for that wave equation a mathematical function psi is used. Psi is a variable quantity associated with the moving particle. Is a complex function of the space coordinates of the particle and time. So psi is called the wave function and its characters the de Broglie waves associated with the particle. So simply psi is a wave function. That wave function is associated with the particle. So psi, let us say the wave function psi is equals to a e power ikx minus omega t. So whereas in general that is the wave equation. So by differentiating the psi, so we got dou psi by dou x is equals to a e power ikx minus omega t into ik. With second time we differentiate with the respect of x, dou square psi by dou x square is equals to minus k square psi. Using de Broglie relation, we can write k square is equals to 4 pi square p square by h square. Substituting this value in the above equation, we get dou square psi by dou x square is equals to minus 4 pi square p square by h square psi, where p is equals to h by lambda, k is equals to 2 pi by lambda, and k square is equals to 4 pi square p square by h. So p square psi is equals to minus h square by 4 pi square dou square psi by dou x square. Now differentiating equation, original equation psi is once with respect of time, then dou psi by dou t is equals to minus I omega psi. Using this relation for the total energy of the particle, E is equals to h nu, omega is equals to 2 pi nu. We got omega is equals to 2 pi E by h. Therefore, dou psi by dou t is equals to minus 2 pi E I by h psi. We can write the total energy of the particle E, which is sum of the kinetic energy P square by 2m and potential energy V. Therefore, E is equals to P square by 2m plus V, or E psi is equals to e square by 2m psi plus v psi. So simply we are taking the wave function psi in both sides. Substituting the values of E psi and P square psi from the above equations, we got minus h by 2 pi I dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h square by 2 pi square m dou square psi by dou x square plus v psi. From the equation E psi is equals to minus h by 2 pi I dou psi by dou t, or I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m dou square psi by dou x square plus v psi, where I is equals to root of minus 1, h cut is equals to h by 2 pi. So this is known as time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. In three-dimensional, the time-dependent Schrodinger wave equation can be written as I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m of dou square psi by dou x square plus dou square psi by dou y square plus dou square psi by dou z square plus v psi, or I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m del square psi plus v psi, where we know that del square is equals to dou square psi by dou square by dou x square plus dou square by dou y square plus dou square by dou z square, that is Laplacian operator. So I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m del square plus v of psi. That implies E psi is equals to h psi, where h cap is equals to h cut square by 2m del square plus v. This is the Hamiltonian operator, and E cap is equals to I h cut dou by dou t is energy operator, and the wave function psi is a function of x, y, z and t, that is psi of x, y, z, t, or psi r comma t. Any restrictions on the particle motion will affect the v. Once v is known, the equation may be solved for psi. This equation used to explain the electronic transition between two states of atom. Even though h and E both energy operators, h depends only on the space coordination, E depends only on the time coordination. So this is the time dependent Schrodinger wave equation. So here we can see that the Schrodinger wave equation can easily derived. So here the Hamiltonian operator h, is equals to h square by 2m del square plus v, right? This is an energy operator, and energy operator E also is there. E is equals to I h cut dou by dou t. So both are indicates the energy operators. Now Schrodinger time independent wave equation. So here there is no time dependent factor, time independent factor. Psi of xt is equals to a e power ikx minus omega t. A e power ikx e power minus I omega t. Phi x e power minus I omega t, where phi x is equals to a e power ikx. Differentiating the above equation with respect of t, dou psi by dou t is equals to minus I omega psi x phi x e power I omega t minus I omega psi is equals to minus 2 pi ei by h psi. Omega is equals to 2 pi nu is equals to e by h. So I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to e psi. Now differentiating the 2.57 equation with respect of x, dou square psi by dou x square is equals to dou square phi by dou x square e power I omega t. Substituting these values, dou square psi by dou x square is equals to dou square phi by dou x square e power I omega t. Substituting the above values in time dependent Schrodinger wave equation, I h cut dou psi by dou t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m dou square psi by dou x square plus v psi. We get e psi of x e power I omega t is equals to minus h cut square by 2m dou square phi by dou x square e power I omega t v phi x e power I omega t. Dividing both sides with e power minus I omega t and rearranging them, we get dou square phi x by dou x square plus 2m by h cut square e minus v psi x is equals to 0. This equation is known as time independent Schrodinger wave equation. However, it is customary to write psi instead of phi, where psi is a function of x alone. Therefore, we have the time independent Schrodinger wave equation dou square psi x by dou x square plus 2m by h cut square e minus v psi x is equals to 0. In 3-dimension Schrodinger time independent wave equation as del square psi r plus 2m by h cut square e minus v psi r is equals to 0, where for free particle the potential energy V is equals to 0. Therefore, the Schrodinger time independent wave equation become as dou square psi r plus 2m by h cut square psi r is equals to 0. Dou square psi is equals to 2m by h cut square e minus v of psi. Therefore, dou square psi plus is equals to minus 2m by h cut square e psi plus 2m by h cut square v psi, or minus h cut square by 2m del square psi is equals to e psi minus v psi, or minus h cut square by 2m del square plus v of psi is equals to e psi, that is equals to h psi is equals to e psi. The operator h is an operator equivalent to the total energy E of the system. We call h as Hamiltonian of the system. The Hamiltonian operator of a given system is the operator equivalent to the total energy of the system. So here is an operator which gives the energy of that particular wave function. This is time independent wave equation. So here we studied about the time dependent wave equation and time independent wave equation. So now we are going to study the estimation of the ground state energy of the harmonic oscillator. Consider a particle of mass m which is subjected to a restoring force F. The force is proportional to the displacement x of the particle. The quantum along a classical harmonic oscillator. In the quantum oscillator, the particle of mass m is considered as quantum harmonic oscillator. The potential energy of the harmonic oscillator is V is equals to half k x square, where k is the force constant, which is k is equals to m omega naught square. Omega naught is the frequency of the oscillator. V is equals to half m omega naught square x square. The Schrodinger time independent wave equation is dou square psi x by dou x square plus 2m by h cut square e minus v psi x is equals to 0. For a linear harmonic oscillator, V is equals to half m omega naught square x square. So, d square psi x by dx square plus 2m by h cut square of e minus 1 by 2 m omega naught square x square of psi x is equals to 0. Further, it is convenient to write the above equation in terms of new variables r and lambda, defined as r is equals to m omega naught square by h whole power of 1 by 2, where x is equals to root alpha into x. Alpha is equals to m omega naught by h cut and lambda is equals to 2e by h cut omega naught. In terms of r and lambda, the equation 2.62 can be written as dou square psi by dou r square plus lambda minus r square of psi is equals to 0. We would like to find the solution of the above equation 2.63, where r is very large, that is r tends to infinity. In this situation, r minus lambda square almost equals to minus lambda square. (2.63) equation dou square psi by dou r square plus r square psi is equals to 0. Where r tends to infinity, then lambda minus r square is equals to minus r square. The asymptotic solution for this equation, psi r is equals to e power plus or minus r square by 2. Then dou square psi r by dou r is equals to r e power plus or minus r square by 2. D square psi r by dr square is equals to r square plus 1 of e power plus or minus r square by 2. Since r is very large, then r plus 1 also is r square plus 1 is also r square. Hence, dou square psi r by dou r square almost equals to r square psi. From the two asymptotic equation solutions, e power minus r square by 2, e power plus r square by 2, e power plus r square by 2 is not desirable, because when r tends to plus or minus infinity, it diverges. So, this suggests that an exact solution of 2.63 can be written as psi r is equals to e power minus r square by 2 hr. This psi r tends to 0 when r tends to infinite, plus or minus infinite, and hr is a series in r, and this hr is well behaved function for large r. Substituting 2.67 into 2.63, we get d square hr by dr square minus 2r dhr by dr plus lambda minus 1 hr. This is second order Hermite differential equation. We would like to find out the solution of the equation 2.68, which is power series of solution type. So hr is equals to sigma n is equals to 0 to infinity a n r power n. In this textbook, the Hermite differential equation solutions as given in the dotted box. Please go through this dotted box and you can understand the equation simplifications. This gives the recurrence relation a plus k2 is equals to 2k plus 1 minus lambda divided by k plus 2 into k plus 1 ak. Thus, the resulting solution of equation 2.68 is a polynomial of degree n. 2k plus 1 minus lambda is equals to 0, where k is equals to n. 2n plus 1 minus 2en by h cut omega naught is equals to 0, where lambda is equals to 2e by h cut omega naught. En is equals to 2n plus 1 by 2 h cut omega, that implies En is equals to n plus 1 by 2 h cut omega naught. For a ground state of harmonic oscillator, n is equals to 0. Therefore, ground state energy E naught is equals to half h cut omega naught. It is the ground state energy which is lowest possible energy of an oscillator even at absolute 0 Kelvin temperature, and is called as the 0 point energy of the system. So here the absolute 0 temperature, at absolute 0 temperature also some temperature will exist, some energy is exist. We know that according to the thermodynamics, at absolute temperature 0, then there is no energy is exist for the atom or for any particle. But whereas in quantum mechanics, even at the absolute temperature 0, still there exists some energy that is called ground state energy level, or else 0 point energy. That 0 point energy E naught is equals to 1 by 2 h cut omega naught. So here in this case we can assume that some amount of energy is there even at the 0 degree Kelvin. Estimation of ground state energy of the hydrogen atom. The hydrogen atom consists of one proton and one electron. Hence, it is an example of two-body problem. A hydrogen atom gives the basic theory of many electron system. The Coulombic potential of hydrogen atom, which is a function of distance r, only can be written as Vr is equals to minus kZe square by r, where k is the 4 pi epsilon naught. Epsilon is the permittivity of free space. Z is atomic number, r is distance between the proton and electron. The time independent Schrodinger equation is del square psi r plus 2 mu by h cut square of E minus Vr of psi r is equals to 0, where mu is reduced mass of hydrogen atom. Since the potential is spherically symmetric, expressing the wave function in spherical polar coordinates and using the method of separation of variables, we have psi r is equals to psi of r theta psi, that is equals to capital R of r y of theta psi, where capital R is equals to r of r is radial function, where psi y of theta psi is equals to y L ml of theta, and psi is an angular part of spherical harmonics. In spherical polar coordinates, dou square psi of r theta psi is equals to 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dou psi by dou r, plus 1 by r square of 1 by sin theta dou by dou theta of sin theta dou psi by dou t, plus 1 by sin theta dou square psi by dou phi square. Since L square of psi is equals to Lx square plus Ly square plus Lz square of psi. L square psi is equals to minus h cut square of 1 by sin theta dou by dou theta sin theta dou by dou theta plus 1 by sin square theta dou square by dou theta square of psi, where L is the angular momentum operator. Substituting equation 2.78 value into 2.77, we got del square psi is equals to 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dou psi by dou r minus L square by h cut square r square psi. Substituting 2.79 value into 2.75, we get 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dou psi by dou r minus L square psi by h cut square r square plus 2 mu h cut square of e minus v r of psi is equals to 0. Since the eigenvalues of an operator L square psi is equals to L of L plus 1 h cut square psi, where L is equals to 0, 1, 2, 3. Hence, the above equation can be written as 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dou psi by dou r minus L of L plus 1 h cut square by h cut square by r square psi plus 2 mu by h cut square of e minus of minus ke square by r of psi is equals to 0. 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dou psi by dou r plus 2 mu by h cut square e minus L of L plus 1 h cut square by 2 mu r square plus k e square by r of psi is equals to 0, where y of theta psi is equals to 1 by r square dou by dou r of r square dr of r dr plus 2 mu by h cut square e minus 1 by L plus 1 h cut square by 2 mu r square k e square by r y theta of psi is equals to 0. Dividing the above equation of y of theta psi, we get 1 by r square d dou by dou r of r square dou r by dou r plus 2 mu by h cut square of e minus L of L plus 1 h cut square by 2 mu r plus k e square by r of r is equals to 0. If we solve the above equation, we get the eigenvalue of the problem. So hence from this we can calculate the ground state energy level of hydrogen atom. So in the hydrogen atom we can give the n is equals to 1 and electron n is equals to 1. So by applying those values in this equation, we get the ground state energy level of the hydrogen atom by using the quantum mechanics Schrodinger wave equation. So this is an advantage of Schrodinger wave equation. In general, the Z is equals to E, that is equals to minus mu Z square by Z square e power 4 by 8 epsilon square h square n square. So this are the energy Q's eigenvalues of hydrogen atom for the ground state energy. So here we got the final equation E is equals to minus mu Z square e power 4 by 8 epsilon square h square n square. For hydrogen atom, Z is equals to 1 first for 1 electron for first orbit n is equals to 1. So E1 is equals to minus mu e power 4 8 epsilon naught square h square, that is minus 13.6 electron volts. So where mu is equals to mu e mu p divided by mu e plus mu p. So this is the first level of first orbit energy in the hydrogen atom. E1 is equals to minus 13.6 electron volts. This is the ground state energy level of the hydrogen, which is already we calculated in the Bohr atomic model. So from the Bohr equation also we got the same ground state energy level of hydrogen atom. So this means it is proved that the energy states, energy of the ground state of ground state of energy of hydrogen, it is same as with the Schrodinger wave equation. It means that the Schrodinger wave equation is a correct, and it is also verified with the Bohr atomic model ground state hydrogen energy. With this we completed the unit 2, that is wave mechanics, in 6th semester. So I am very thankful those who are watching this classes, and please give the comment on this. And I am also thankful to the subscribers to encourage me. And here why I am using the textbook. Before that, I have to thanks to those who made the videos and put in YouTube. Those videos I am using in my class. I am very thankful to them. Here why I am showing the textbook instead of PowerPoint presentation, PPTs. Here, as by my observation, it is the students are not opening the books, not studying the books. Most of the students are not studying the books, and within the book the syllabus is consigned. So according to the syllabus, these academic books are written. So whatever the syllabus, that whole syllabus is written in the textbook, and most of the information is available in the textbook. So that I want to make them to study the textbook, and if a student required any additional information, then they can go for the reference books, or in these days a wide range of availability is there through the internet, so that any student, if he is interested, he can search in the internet. He can search in the internet for additional information, additional knowledge. But before, as being a student, before we have to study the textbooks and understand level. And that one more added advantage is there in the by reading the textbook. Even that is, when we are reading the textbook, we understand by sentence, and we visualize or we imagine our understanding levels, understand according to our thoughts, and we can have a visualization, imaginary effects, imaginary power based on what we read. So based on our own understanding levels, based on our own phase of reading, we understand at our level. That is the advantage of the reading of textbook. If we see that videos, so we have to concentrate on videos and next what he is going to say. So that is an added advantage. we can read and we can understand, and we will think at our own pace and own speed. So all humans are not the same. So please try to read the textbooks and understand at your own level, and if it is not understood, then go for the reference books and go for the YouTube videos, or else just you write to me in the comment box. I will try to explain each and everything according to you, or else I will support to you to understand in the best way. And moreover, one more thing, you have to practice it on pen and paper. By watching the videos is not sufficient to understand. To understand the subject, we have to represent it on pen and paper, at what level we understand it and what level we memorized the subject. So that please students, go through the textbooks, read it. If the textbooks is not available, just go through my videos, and wherever you want to read, just you pause the video and read the whole text, and after that you understand at your own level. Thank you, and one and all.